Hello and welcome to Lutherans Alive. This is the program that seeks to tell the stories of Lutheran Christians and their ministries here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. We do so joyfully, believing that God is at work through us. I'm Pastor Tony Schneck, pleased to be your host on the program today with Pat McKenty as our guest today. Pat is a member of First English Lutheran Church in Sharpsburg, Pennsylvania, and she's involved in a number of things around our Synod as well. Pat, welcome to the program today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pat's a very active member of First English Sharpsburg. Tell us a little bit about the congregation and the community there.
Well, the church is going to celebrate its 125th anniversary next June. The community has gone from a very large steel mill community to a very small community with a lot of people coming and going. Our church is very active in the community. One of our big joys is the Gaiasuta Festival Committee. Once a year, we have an ice cream booth, and everybody stops by and gets their ice cream. Children's Day, it's free. The rest of the time, people pay a pittance. It was never meant to be a fundraiser of any kind. It was just to be a community presence, and we've done so joyfully. The community has supported the church. We're usually called the little church on the pedestal because our church is on a 4-foot wall to keep us out of the floodwaters. And then in 1936, the second story was damaged with floodwater. And then in 2004, September 17th, 2004, there was 2.5 feet inside the Sunday school room. So even building yourself on a pedestal, you still get wet feet. So we've enjoyed community spirit. The Roman Catholic community is welcomed in our church, and they come. The fire department, the local medical people all come to our church. We host AA meetings on Monday and Thursdays. We just have a great time. We have a brand new pastor. We're so excited about Pastor Lynn coming to our area. He's just a great addition to the community. And he's already reaching out and asking what more we can do to help in the community.
And you find yourself involved in many different areas of ministry there at First English Sharpsburg, serving on multiple committees, I understand.
Well, our congregation is small. And when you are small, everybody does things. Whether it's scrubbing the floors after a flood, when everybody comes out, or fixing food for the people that are cleaning when you can't get down on your knees. Everybody does something. So I'm just one in the congregation that helps keep it alive and going. I'm president of council right now, and that's a great honor bestowed on me. But it's the people on the committees and the people that are sitting in the pews that are getting the word out into the community and getting our recognition, not for ourselves, but where the recognition belongs.
Sharpsburg is a community that has been affected by recent floods. You know, certainly the 2004, which I guess isn't that recent anymore, but
Right.
But nonetheless, being one of those communities on the river there that has seen better times economically, but yet Sharpsburg tends, it seems to me anyway, seems to be a very community-minded town, and still a lot of active businesses there along the main street of town.
Absolutely. Sharpsburg, one of our noted people is H.J. Hines. He set up his first shop in Sharpsburg right behind our church, and he made his horseradish, and that's long before he started bottling pickles. And he was instrumental in starting First Evangelical Lutheran Church on 6th and Clay, which closed its doors after 130 years 2 summers ago. And we broke away from that congregation 125 years ago, and we had all of our meetings at his farm to build our building. And he was very, very Christian-minded, because if we look at the records of many of the Protestant churches in the area, H.J. Hines was there either with money or with support. His hand was in there somehow, and in their founding documents you'll find H.J. Hines's name. He also had a pair of brothers, the Rudy Brothers Glass Studio, and all of his buildings, including the old Sharpsburg High School, have Rudy Brothers stained glass in them. And for a long time they thought the stained glass windows in First English, because of their complexity and their design and their workmanship, were Rudy Brothers. And we've never been able to prove or disprove that, but they were just all re-leaded about 6 years ago and brought them back to the glory. But H.J. Hines sort of instilled community spirit. And everybody knows the Guyasuta Festival, we're one of the few towns. We have an Indian in the center of our town, not a doughboy, not a tank, not an aircraft gun, but we have an Indian. And that's in honor of Chief Guyasuta, who was George Washington's guide during the French and Indian War. So community spirit has been there since the very beginning, and it will not cease. We've got so many active people on the Guyasuta Festival Committee insisting that that kind of attitude will not cease.
You were referring, of course, to the statue of the...
The statue of the chief.
there in the center of town.
Long before the one on Mount Washington.
And I was not aware of the Hines connection to your congregation as well. That's interesting to find out.
His glass company was behind our church. No, his glass company was up the road. He wanted to build his first company, his first pickle company, in Sharpsburg, and the residents felt that it was too much of a residential area and that perhaps he should go elsewhere. So, a mistake.
So it ended up just a little
farther. Little bit farther down south, yes. And a multi-million-dollar program was put in place. But he never forgot his roots. There was always something, and still today, they have all kinds of foundations, and they take care of the city of Pittsburgh and the H.J. Hines Library and all those museum. They've never forgotten their roots.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like a good place to be. Other things that you might want to tell us about the congregation there at First English. How would you describe the family of God there at First English Sharpsburg?
Joyous. With the addition of J.J. Lynn, everybody hugs. The passing of the sharing of the peace in our congregation might take 10 or 15 minutes. It's not just a greet your neighbor. It's everybody walks around and hugs everybody. We've taken it a step farther than just a handshake. I call it the hootenanny, but that's okay. But everybody that's there wants to be there. And they try to bring their friends, their neighbors. They go out and tell everybody what happened in church. We have a social hour every Sunday. Whether we have any cookies or donuts or not, we still have coffee. People greet each other when they come in. They greet each other during the sharing of the peace, and then they come downstairs and they have their coffee and their cookies. They share everything that they've done all week, what they're going to do the following week, and if one person isn't there, somebody's on the phone after church calling to find out where they are. We have a gentleman that's been coming up to our church for over a year now, almost 2 years, from a retirement home, St. Mary's Court. He walks up every Sunday, no matter what the weather is, and he didn't come up for 2 weeks. And I called to find out if he was okay. And they were so surprised that we would care or even notice that somebody was there and missing. So that's just some of the people there. They're just fantastic people. They're the kind of people that want to embrace you.
Such is life in the family of God.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing. More with Pat McKenty. Thanks for what you shared so far. We're going to have some more after we take a short break here on Lutherans Alive. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We continue our conversation with Pat McKenty from First English Lutheran Church in Sharpsburg. And a little bit earlier in our first segment, you happened to mention that there in your church building, there are some lovely stained glass windows. Could you say a word about those and how you also yourself have an interest in stained glass?
Because of the magnificent windows, I had a passion about stained glass. I would get up with a toothbrush and scrub them. And then one day, friends of mine from Bethlehem Lutheran said, you know, there's a stained glass course that Allegheny Community College teaches. So I signed up for it. And it was a 15-week course, and unfortunately, because of my job, I only was able to attend 4 of the classes. But I learned enough and then found enough other people that were willing to teach me that I was able to make some stained glass projects. One of my first projects, I love Egypt and anything about Egypt. I like the pharaohs, I like the gods, the wings of Horus. It was one of my favorite projects to get started with. And a friend of mine who took the same stained glass made the same one with different colors. And it was amazing. The two of us got together and said, well, I use this for that. And, oh, okay. But a couple of the windows that we have at the church, our church family made. When we celebrated our 100th anniversary, we had a contest to see who could come up with a design for a stained glass window that was going to be about 5 feet wide by 4 feet high. The design was chosen, and one of the ladies in our congregation, who was a art teacher at Fox Chapel High School, made the design, and then I crafted it. Everybody in the church got to break one piece of glass. It's a full-masted ship with a sunrise behind it riding on the back of a fish. And it's called Piloted by the Spirit. Everybody in the church broke at least one piece of glass, and I fitted into the frame. Then we have 4 windows in the back on the side of the church in the Sunday school room, and I thought, okay, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So I teach a stained glass class, and we decided to replace the 1936 glass that had been broken with a different color glass and put the original glass back in its place, but put a shield of the angel, the lion, the ox, and the eagle. And then we used them for fundraisers. And as soon as I said, oh, you know, we can put a price on these and use them for a fundraiser, they were sold. So the people in the class put the main piece together, and then we put the shields in the glass. Now, it's a total different concept of glass than what we have in the church. What we have in the church is very Tiffany style, layer upon layer, to get a certain texture or a certain color. What is downstairs is what you see is what you get, very much like this sun catcher. So while they're very pretty, they aren't the beauty that's in the sanctuary itself. Those were masters that put those windows in. And when we had them redone, I was amazed that any light came in them. There were so many years of soot in them. There's one that is an angel sitting on the empty tomb. And the wings are under glass, and they were filled with soot. And when they were brought out, here's all these marvelous feathers. The one window had Jesus at the well with the children. And when they were cleaned, we realized there were a flock of sheep and 2 shepherds standing behind him, which we hadn't seen for years. So our windows are okay, but the windows upstairs are really works of art.
Really unearthed some treasures.
We really did. And we took them apart and cleaned them and put them back together with the help of an artist.
Wow. And like a lot of good church art, it tells the story.
Yes.
And the light shines through, amazingly. Literally and figuratively speaking, the light of God tells the story. That's wonderful, Pat.
We have 1, 2, 3 windows of Jesus, one of a shipwrecked, distressed person holding onto the cross, one of an angel, and one of Mary at the Annunciation.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad that project has gone well, and all the best as you continue to. Do you still do some more stained glass? You continue to work with that and make things?
I am retiring soon, and I intend to do a lot of stained glass. And I have an open door policy at the church. Anybody that wants to learn how to do stained glass, I will teach them. And all they have to do is get in touch with the church. And generally we meet on Wednesday nights, except during Lent and a few other things that we do on Wednesday night at the church. It doesn't compete or interfere with anything that we do at church.
And have you taught stained glass anywhere outside of the church, or is this strictly been something you've done there?
Strictly at the church in Sharpsburg. And there's a lot of equipment that people don't know about it besides just a glass cutter and some glass. Plus glass is very heavy. And if you want 2 or 3 colors, you're talking about some weight. And so it's easier to have people come to us than it is for us to take the workshop to them.
Is there still a great interest in stained glass, or is it becoming it's not becoming a dying art, I hope?
For a long time, I thought stained glass was a dying art because nobody was doing it. And then some of the hobbyists decided that they liked it, and they got involved in it. A lot of little glass shops opened up. A lot of teaching places opened up, like community college and some of the glass places. And that lasted for maybe 10 years, 15 years, and now I see it slowly dying back. And so when I find a place, I buy everything that I can. Or a lot of hobbyists have a lot of equipment sitting around that they don't know what to do with anymore, and they've either given it to me or sold it to me for a very reasonable price.
Well, good. Well, we hope that it will continue. It certainly is it's been around forever.
Yes.
Not only in our churches, but in other, even in secular circles. We'll hope that it's something that continues. You're a person of many interests, and we're going to hear about some more things from Pat McKenty after we take another short break here on Lutherans Alive. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We're continuing our conversation with Pat McKenty from First English Lutheran Church in Sharpsburg. And Pat is a person of many interests. You've served on many committees. You continue to serve on many committees, not only there in your congregation, but around our synod. We've also had the chance to talk about your interest in stained glass. And I'd also like to ask you about another one of your interests, and that is the farming community. Now, Sharpsburg does not strike me as a place that is near the heart of the farming community, but how was it that you came to be interested in agriculture?
Well, it was all an accident. Right out of high school, I had a scholarship that was canceled 2 weeks before school started. And nobody knew anything about loans for children. And so I had to go find a job, and my first job was in a lab in an ice cream plant. And my friends all thought that I had the best job in the world. Well, when that company decided to go out of business, I put an application in with the state. And lo and behold, they hired me as a milk sanitarian. And their only concern was how I would get along with the inspectors of the farms. Well, the first day I was on farms, I knew that I was home. The people were gracious. The people were very religious-minded and very patriotic. And those are two things very close to my heart. And so I also have the kind of personality that I can sort of smile through a lot of stuff. And that has that's happened, and it has been a huge help through life. If you can smile enough, you can get out of any situation or get shot, one of the other. And I'm not sure how close I've been to being shot. When you go in and tell somebody that they've got dirty equipment or cows that don't look right or cows that are sick, they aren't very happy until they realize you've told them the truth. And as we all know, the truth will set you free. And so I've worked with the people. I've learned to respect them very much. When I hear people talk about farmers and some of the things that they do, it's something to be respected. If you are a farmer, it is one of God's callings. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, that farmer is on duty, whether he's milking cows, raising steers, or out in the field. And this is something that our communities don't understand anymore. I said to one lady, I was there and I did a federal rating, and she said, well, if you had come next week, we wouldn't be here. And I said, oh, where are you going? And she says, well, I retired and my husband's going to retire. And I said, well, we can't have too many farmers retiring. And she says, well, you know, nobody knows where the milk comes from. When I told a friend at work, she said, well, that sounds like awfully hard work. And she said, well, it is hard work. And she said, well, why don't you just go to the store and buy your milk? Had absolutely no concept that the milk comes from a cow, goes into a tank truck, is delivered to a plant, is bottled, and then goes to the store. It's all hands-on. It's all break-your-back work, and people just don't realize that. They will have hearings when the price of milk goes up a nickel, but nobody says anything when the price of beer goes up a couple dollars a case. I can grow the grain, but sometimes you have a lot of medical problems with cows. Farmers, by far, are some of the finest Christians I know because they deal every day with life and death situations, whether it's theirs or their animals or someone that they love. Tragedy happens on farms every day. I also get into milk plants, ice cream plants, cheese plants. The same attitude works. You treat people with respect, and you get respect back. If you don't get respect back, you just smile, say goodbye, and then the law is what you're using, not common sense. It's just, this is what the law is, and this is what you'll do. Not, well, this is the law, but if you do this, don't you realize you'll be making more money? Oh, never thought of that. And so sometimes when you're talking to people, you have to know where they are coming from. And a lot of people don't know where the farming community is coming from. Next time you sit down to eat, thank a farmer. Anytime anybody asks me to pray, I always thank the loving hands that grew the food. It's a community that is so underappreciated, and we have fewer and fewer farms. Our farming community are a treasure, and we should respect them for that, and we don't. And yes, I'm in Pittsburgh, and I've helped delivered cows. And when they, do you do that every day? Are you kidding? I'm from Pittsburgh.
It's true that we sometimes are far too removed from our food sources and where our food comes from. And to thank God and to thank the hands that have prepared the food, but as you say also, the hands that were instrumental in helping to tend and nurture and grow that food is incredibly important. And it's interesting. You are a person of many different interests, Pat, and we're so very thankful that you've had the opportunity to share some of these things with us on the show today. Indeed, it's a calling, whether you're an artisan who makes stained glass windows, or whether you're a farmer who grows food, or someone who works with farmers, or whether you're a part of the family of God. It's all a calling, and we're thankful that you've had the opportunity to share some of those callings with us today.
And I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
And thank you for being with us today here on Lutherans Alive. Whether you're in Sharpsburg or whether you're somewhere else, we know that from wherever you're watching, in or near your community, there is a Lutheran congregation that would be very pleased to welcome you. Won't you come worship with us? And won't you come see us next time on Lutherans Alive?